Email messages with superpowers, or will video kill the email star? I'm Tanya Hall for ZDNet, and joining me is Olof Mathe. He is the co-founder and CEO of Mixmax. Welcome, Olof.
Hi, Tanya. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. Email systems haven't changed much since Microsoft's introduction of Outlook 20 years ago. So how is Mixmax changing them?
Great point. And I mean, at Mixmax, we're reinventing email for business. So what that means, if you're in sales, success, or recruiting, we help you sell, succeed, or hire better. Email used to be this kind of generic communication platform, but it was just never optimized for the main way it's used today. So that's what we do.
How are you using artificial intelligence and machine learning to better your software?
Love that question. So in so many ways, kind of one of the wonderful things about Mixmax is if you're in a customer facing role, you have to talk to a lot of people outside of your org, right? Prospects, clients, customers. And a real hard thing is knowing what to write to someone, when to write to them, and kind of like what to say. And so Mixmax helps with that. And so a great example of this is a feature where we use AI and machine learning that we call recommended send times. And so, typically when you send an email to someone, you don't know if that's actually the best time to send a message, right? If you're working late at night, perhaps 9 p.m. isn't best, you should actually be sending it at 11 a.m. Well, Mixmax can actually tell you when the best time is to reach someone. So that's a wonderful example of how we use what you might call AI for an email.
There are other applications that do that separately. They'll tell you a little bit about the person, maybe even how you should talk to the person, as well as I use apps like Grammarly and Boomerang and things like that. How well does your software integrate with other apps like Grammarly and Boomerang?
Yeah. The way to think about Mixmax is kind of like as a comprehensive platform for all of your externally facing communication. So when you're on Mixmax, you actually don't need Boomerang or Grammarly because we take care of that and cover that for you. So typically what we see is people tend to have a gazillion applications in their email to help them with various things from, help with calendaring, reminders, sync to an ADS or a CRM, and, something like sed times or spell check. And Mixmax just covers all of that for you in one comprehensive package. So
You have access then to a lot of consumers' data. How are you using it and how are you protecting it?
great question. So the kind of wonderful thing about Mixmax is since we're a paid product, we don't use that at all. So users trust us with their kind of most important information. And that to us is an incredible responsibility. And it's been really awesome to see all the conversations that have kind of come in the wake of, well, I guess especially like Cambridge Analytica and Facebook. Because in a way, I think fundamentally we view kind of any personal information as a toxic asset. Like it's absolutely not something we want to touch, and it's something we want to stay as far away from as possible. Because that's ultimately like not our business model, right? And so for us, we have a gazillion controls on this, from a kind of encryption and the way the software is built through to, having the right set of processes to make sure only a particular type of employee can do particular things. And so there are a lot of certifications for this too that we have as well.
You guys have been around for roughly, I think, 3 years. So
Yep.
how has the product evolved since, the original idea versus where you are today? I mean, what have you learned?
Yeah. So much. And that's one of the joys. There's like an infinite amount of ways you can help people be better communicators, which is kind of what Mixmax ultimately is about. But the very first version of the product, which is still so core to what we do, is just a simple Chrome extension that in a keystroke let you put in available times from your calendar. So that rather than, when you want to meet someone, rather than sending 10 emails back and forth to try to find a time, and it just takes a lot of time just to set up a meeting, we let you embed times directly in a message. When the recipient taps on a time, the meeting's automatically set up. And so that's so core to Mixmax to kind of embed apps inside of a message and take email from something that used to be dumb, flat, and unproductive and make it into something that's rich, delightful, wonderful, and interconnected. And that's just grown a lot with Mixmax over time. So now we let you embed surveys and polls and videos and GIFs and literally whatever you have to kind of just make you a much, much better communicator and cut back on all that kind of horrible back and forth that you're typically stuck with.
To your point, I do think gifts make us all a better communicator. I mean, in fact, the absence of gifts is essentially, going to mean that you can't communicate, in my opinion, at least if you follow me on Twitter. So
Pretty much.
that said, there are many people that are, kind of down on emojis, or
Yeah.
they don't believe that gifts are a good way to communicate. I use them quite frequently. I don't know what that says about me, but I guess, how do you feel then about communication in general, and how it's going to change?
Yeah, I love that you touch upon gifts because I think this just shows how it's like it's such a dividing line, and fundamentally just people are incredibly diverse, and so people like to communicate in like really diverse and weird ways. And I think if you look at kind of communication overall, we're probably going to see a split where communication both simultaneously gets like way more rich and immersive, and also gets way less rich and way less immersive. So on the one hand, you're going to have, incredible VR, like Star Trek holodeck like experiences that are probably like the ultimate and like remote presence. And on the other hand, you're going to have very bare bones experiences, probably something that's much closer to like what messaging is today, right? Which is typically just like text on, digital paper that you send back and forth. Or even like really silly apps, like there was this app Yo before where you just yoed people. Or you might even have things like, I mean, that's kind of come a little bit with Apple Watch. Like you can actually feel your spouse's pulse on your clock. Right? That's communication of sorts too, but it's very rudimentary and doesn't kind of like transform a lot of information. So I think you're going to see a lot of evolution in both ends of the spectrum.
It doesn't really surprise me much, and it shouldn't. That wasn't a huge success, but video in general, which is, evolved more and more people use, is really replacing a lot of communication. And I'm not talking about gifts, but I'm talking about video in general. So
Yeah.
will video kill the email star?
Well, definitely not. So I'd say and that's the short answer. The kind of slightly richer answer on that is the beautiful thing about email is kind of a container for a lot of things. And so you actually see this a lot today, whereby people send embedded videos inside of messages, inside of email. And so in a lot of contexts, that just like links you out to some other site. With Mixmax, you can actually embed a video that will like play directly inside of the message in a lot of cases. Fundamentally though, the like video is just one of many modes of communication, and it works really well for certain types of interactions, right? Here we're on video, it's like a rich conversation. I can see you, you kind of come to life. Whereas I probably wouldn't want to video call you if I was just curious, hey Tanya, when's this episode going to air? Because the kind of mental and emotional overhead of doing that over a video call is too high. So kind of different modes of communication fit different circumstances in different ways.
I think we can expect a lot of changes, especially with 5G as it relates to video. I mean, it's possible that 5G could bring instantaneous video. Are you ready for that in your kind of software? Or are you planning for that in the future?
I mean, that would be absolutely amazing. I think 5G is going to bring a lot of other things beyond just video. But I think probably a lot of the innovation that will come there will probably fall a little bit outside of the scope of what we do, and probably affect things much more like presentation software or different types of video chat that might become more immersive.
I'm really excited about this evolution of communication, and I really appreciate your time. I think it's exciting to see where things are going and how we evolve in dialogue. If somebody wants to connect with you, Olof, and they want to find out more about your software, maybe they just want to connect with you personally, how can they do that?
Yeah, the best way is either to connect with us at Mixmax, probably go on Twitter at Mixmax, and to connect with me, probably Twitter as well. So at Olofster, Olofster.
Thank you again, and I appreciate your time. If you want to connect with me, you can do that right here on ZDNet or Tech Republic, or join me on Facebook by searching for The Tanya Hall Show. Connect with me on LinkedIn, or if you'd like to chat, follow me on Twitter at Tanya Hall Radio. I'd love to hear from you. And finally, visit my website at tanyahall.net.